And we are live.
Live and direct.
Making it through tropical storms and earthquakes and all sorts of things. We come to you live and direct.
Even though we weren't even supposed to be here today, right?
Right.
All right. Well, it's 5 o'clock. I'm going to do roll call whether anybody asks for it or not. We have Brett and Tim and Frank and Jill and Ed and John and Rose and Sandy and Steve and Tectonic Chris, who hasn't chatted with us yet, but who is sitting quietly and politely in the sidebar.
Very quiet.
Very, very quiet.
That's fine. People are welcome to lurk.
If John would be quiet, I'd be even happier.
No, that's not possible.
All right. Well, I think I'm going to go ahead and start recording because I have a lot to say today.
All right.
Sound good? Oh, Tectonic Chris Yes,
hello.
Tectonic Chris says hi.
There we go.
Hello.
On the board.
First time here, right? Very nice to meet you. Unless we've talked to you before and we just don't recognize the name.
It is possible that we have. So apologies if we have, but I don't recognize the name. So I think he, she, they may be new.
Right. Long time listener,
first time on the show. Well, welcome.
Very good.
Excellent.
Well, glad you made it, especially since we weren't supposed to have one today.
Yeah. Now, Chris, you know where to get the video feed, I assume. Probably since Allison kind of pushes the bejesus out of this thing. She really...
Hey. Hey. All right. I'm going to go ahead and start. Here we go. Hi, this is Allison Sheridan of the NosillaCast podcast, hosted at podfeed.com, a technology geek podcast with an ever so slight Apple bias. Today is Sunday, August 20th, 2023, and this is show number 954. Well, we've gotten a lot of really nice messages from people asking whether we're okay because of Hurricane Hillary and a wee tiny earthquake that was not terribly close to us. It did feel really good to have folks worry about us, but we've been fine so far today. As of right now, the peak wind has only been 9.2 miles per hour, and we've had 1.4 inches of rain. It's not over yet, but with our whole home batteries, the Tesla Powerwalls I've told you about, we're not too worried. Thanks to all who checked in with us. Okay, so remember how I told you the show would come out on Wednesday because we were going to Houston for the weekend to finally meet our new grandson? Well, early in the week, I got a wee bit of a cold, so we canceled the trip. You see, there's this virus called RSV that can be very dangerous to babies, and especially dangerous to premature babies like our little Teddy, and RSV can present itself as a cold in adults, so you can have RSV and not realize it. Rather than take any risk to Teddy, we postponed the trip by a few weeks. We were disappointed, but we were able to pick a time when Kyle will be on the second half of his paternity leave, so it will be even more fun for us to go out and visit them. Now, since we told everyone there would not be a live show, but there actually is a live show going on while I'm recording right now, I sent out the bat signal on every channel I could think of. I sent it out on Mastodon. I sent it on Twitter. I gave it to Steve to post on Facebook. I put it on Slack. I put it in the Podfeet Press, the newsletter I told you about recently, and a whole bunch of people signed up for, which is great, so they got the message. I put it on Patreon, and I even sent individual messages to the people who are most recently showing up often. If you missed the fact that there was a live show today, my apologies, but I tried everything short of sending out owls to let you know. Alrighty.
Owls?
That's a Harry Potter reference.
Should have known.
Except that, I don't know, am I allowed to talk about Harry Potter in a nice tone?
Sure. You love Harry Potter.
Well, yeah, but the author turns out to be...
we won't go there.
Not what we want. Oh, get the chapter mark there. I want an owl next time. I will see what I can do. I could do that. Okay, I'm going to do a... Oh, you just reread the whole series? Yeah, I read all of those. They were great books. All right. I have a chapter mark and a sip of water. Maybe I should read them again. I'm always looking for good books, and they were good. All right. Here we go. You may have noticed that Steve and I spend a fair bit of time away from home. Tessa, our wonderful dog, requires a great deal of playtime and attention, so she either goes to doggy camp, or if it's a longer trip, she either goes to Camp Nancy, a very dear friend of ours, or if it's a long voyage like when we went to India or Antarctica, she stays with Lindsay and Nolan. She loves going to Lindsay and Nolan's house. And by loves, I mean she does not want to go home. When we start packing up to take her back, she always hides. She'll be under the dining room table. She'll be under the desk in the guest room, wherever she thinks she won't be discovered. We actually had to put it on our checklist to go home to take Tessa with us because we were afraid we'd forget her. I think we may have started to pull the car out once without getting her. Anyway, our cats, Ada and Grace, named after Ada Lovelace, the first computer programmer, and Grace, named after Grace Hopper, who was a rear admiral in the Navy and the inventor of the first computer compiler, the two of them require a lot less attention than Tessa. To be fair, they give back a lot less love and affection, so it's a fair deal. They're actually the most affectionate pair of cats we've ever owned, and they do seem to notice when we've been gone. But to survive, they really only require their cat litter scooped, some food now and then, and fresh water. Ever since our very first pair of cats, Halliday and Resnick, yes, that Halliday and Resnick, we've had a very simple gravity-fed feeder for when we're away. While Grace will eat the amount of food necessary to stay alive and healthy while we're away, Ada seems to have some self-control issues in the food department. Each time we go away, she seems to get bigger. When we return, we put Grace's food up on a windowsill. We know that Rubenesque Ada, a term coined by her vet, is too heavy to jump up there, but Grace will easily be able to hop on up, and that way we can monitor Ada's food after we get back. With our recent trip to Mammoth, I decided to try to use technology to solve the problem. I went on the hunt for a smart cat food dispenser so Ada wouldn't have access to an endless supply of food while we're away. I found a great rundown of the 9 best automatic cat feeders from 2023, tested and reviewed at thesprucepets.com. Now, some best of sites are just link farms or worse yet are paid placements, but the Spruce Pets actually did do in-depth testing and evaluation. They broke it down into the best overall, best budget, and best for multiple cats, along with a few other options. Their top pick for multiple cats was the $90 Pet Libro Dual Pet Feeder on Amazon. This would have met our needs, dispersing specific quantities on a schedule, but then I noticed that for $150, I could get nearly the same model, but with 1080p HD video with night vision and Wi-Fi. I really had no choice, right? For future reference, this Pet Libro feeder is affectionately referred to as PLAF 203. PLAF 203. I'm just going to call it the Pet Libro. All right, here's a spoiler to start with. We really like the Pet Libro cat feeder, and we're especially glad that we got the one with the video and Wi-Fi. Before I dig into the setup and why we like it so much, let me say up front that if you're blind, just move along. The interface on the Pet Libro cat feeder does not have any real physical buttons that you can feel. The app is pretty much inaccessible, and even the online manual isn't accessible as it appears to be one giant image. It's really a shame, and I did write to them, and I was assured that my message would be delivered to the correct people to try to rectify it. Nothing new in the last week since I've written this, but I did what I could. Frank, what?
He caught the physics book reference.
Oh, good, good.
Very well done, Frank.
Oh, Kurt's here. Hi, Kurt. Yeah. Did you give them a link to it so they could see why I was saying that Halliday?
No, but I will.
It's linked in the show notes.
I will do that. This was all of the physics students where we went to school, which was UC Irvine. I think all of the UC system had to slog through this one.
I still have mine.
Yeah. Didn't we keep a copy? I think there were volumes 1 and 2, right?
Yeah, we only took volume 1, I think.
I thought
physics is
I may have gone through 2. Well,
I took 5 quarters of physics, so if you got it, took it, I took it.
But that would be more than 1 year. That would be 2 years almost.
Oh,
It wasn't bright orange when we took it. It was a dark blue.
Yeah, you can go get mine if you want. It's in the other room. I actually have a paragraph in there that I keep a Post-it note on because I like to refer to it because it's so funny. It's about electromagnetism. Maybe we'll have a dramatic reading of that paragraph if we have
There
time.
is a funny. Are you talking about the humorous
Don't
statement?
give.
Okay, all
give
right.
it.
I will
Yeah,
go
it's-
retrieve that. Yeah, in a
I'll
moment.
do a dramatic reading if we get our work done here.
All right.
All right. The Pet Libro feeder has a 5-liter cylindrical chamber with a little window on the front so you can see how full the feeder is at a glance. Very analog. You add food by simply rotating the lid on top to access the chamber. Below the chamber, it has a food chute that spits out the food on a schedule you define in the app. Since this is for 2 pets, there are 2 stainless steel bowls to accept the food. Stainless steel was a differentiator in the Spruce Pets reviews because many of the feeders only had plastic bowls. Now, you would think the Pet Libro would send equal amounts automatically into the 2 bowls, but you'd be wrong. By default, it seems to spit a lot more into one bowl than the other. So there's a small plastic piece you have to kind of pop back on that's called the meal splitter. You have to connect and then rotate to direct it to split the servings. It's weird though, because it barely moves between being equally centered, which oddly doesn't make them equal servings, and about like a 10-degree angle to one side that does make them equal. I have a feeling people really try to crank on the meal splitter because it doesn't really make sense that it barely moves and they included a spare. Below the food chamber is a black angled screen that lights up virtual buttons. By default, the buttons are locked so that curious noses can't trigger anything like manual feeding. We wouldn't want Ada doing that. One of the lit up buttons is a lock that you can disengage to allow manipulation of the device. Now, the instructions that come with the cat feeder explain how to do this unlocking and then how to get it to pair with the phone app. I tried repeatedly to make the connection as instructed, but it kept failing. The instructions explain that there are 2 different versions of their phone app, Pet Libro and Pet Libro Lite. Now, that's a bit annoying, but it's even harder to figure out which app you need. The instructions said to look at the serial number inside the battery chamber, and that requires flipping the entire cat feeder upside down. If the number after the C in the serial number is a value greater than 43, then you're supposed to use the non-light version of the app. Well, my serial number after the C was 55, but the non-light version kept failing for me. Finally, in desperation, I tried the light version of the Pet Libro software, and instantly I was able to connect my cat feeder with the app. Now that I look back at my photo that I took of it, technically the number after the serial number after the C was 055. So maybe that's why. Maybe it's 05. Anyway, it was a really annoying way to figure it out, but once I used the light version of the app, I was in business. Now, the app allows connection using Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, or you can bring up a QR code on the phone and show it to the pet feeder's camera. I'm not sure which one I was using the way I was doing it, but it's all working now. Once I got it connected using the right app, it was all joy from there on out. You'll get the typical permissions requests, like whether to allow it to have access to the microphone. Now, that makes sense because then I can chat with my cats while they're eating. Who's not going to want to do that? It asks for permission to access your photos library, which is supposed to allow you to put avatars of your pets into the device, but I don't think I'm going to do that. I also declined the option to let it use location services because I didn't see any reason it would need to know where I was. If the app allowed automation based on location, that might make sense, but I could not find that option in the app. The best thing about the Pet Libro app is how easy it is to schedule feeding of your little beasts. It's as easy as adding a time, choosing how many portions to feed at that time, and what days you want that scheduled feeding to happen. I played with a lot of automations for doing schedule events in apps and with home automation, and the Pet Libro app has nailed ease of use compared to most of them. By the way, you can set up to 10 times a day to feed your pets, which is definitely not what Ada needs. Figuring out the portion size was a little bit tricky because, or I should say the portions, because one portion is 20 milliliters. Well, how much food is 20 milliliters? What we did was we poured what looked to be a typical amount of food into the 2 bowls, then we combined them into one. We weighed the bowls with and without the food. That, of course, told us how many grams we fed the cat, so it really wasn't that much help at all. I think in the end, we ended up using the manual button in the app, or maybe it was on the device, to spit out one 20 milliliter portion at a time until it looked about right. If you're curious, for our 2 cats, they eat 3 portions served 3 times per day. In addition to scheduled feeding, you can also manually feed the cats a serving or 2 if the poor darlings give you those sad eyes asking for more. While cutting back on Ada's endless access to food while we were away was my primary goal, we realized that it's actually pretty handy to have them fed at different intervals while we're even at home. I think Steve secretly misses having the cats swarm around his ankles first thing in the morning, but the pet Libro is fun in so many ways that he's willing to sacrifice that joy. What he does now is he spends time telling them how long it is until they'll get fed. 2 more minutes, kitties, 2 more minutes. Anyway, a big concern with an automated feeder is, what happens if something goes wrong? You wouldn't want them starving to death, right? Well, if the food level gets low, the pet Libro will send you a notification to your phone. I accidentally tested this by just putting in a very small amount of food at the beginning, and sure enough, it let me know the poor darlings would starve soon. What if the food gets jammed? The pet Libro will also notify you in the app. The pet Libro is powered via the included USB 5-volt power adapter, but what if the power goes out? Remember the battery chamber where the serial number was located? That's for the battery backup of the cat feeder. Since we have a whole home battery system, in theory, we won't ever experience a power outage again, but we might slap some 3 D-cell batteries in there just in case. Now, how can you be sure the little beasts are being fed? There are a couple of ways. In probably the only unintuitive part of the app, if you tap on the icon on the top right that looks like a phone and a tablet on top of each other, you'll be shown an option to see the log of the activity of the pet feeder. On the main screen, one of the buttons across the bottom lets you see that log. Actually, I wrecked it. I ad-lib. Now, how can you be sure? How's the privacy policy? I'm not uploading anything to the app. Oh, where's my phone? Let's see. I don't get into the privacy policy, but if I do a search of Pet Libro or Pet Libro Lite, Libro, it didn't ask me for anything I didn't want to give it. Let's see. Let's look at the light one. It's going to ask you for location, which I didn't give it. It says maybe linked to you, user content, usage data, contact info, identifiers, and diagnostics. Then it says data not linked to you, user content and diagnostics. Oh yeah, the videos at our ankles, that I do end up doing that. All right. Now, how can you be sure the little beasts are being fed? There's a couple of ways. And probably the only unintuitive part of the app, if you tap on the icon in the top right that looks like a phone and a tablet on top of each other, you'll be shown the option to log the activity of the pet feeder. Once you've done that, on the main screen, one of the buttons across the bottom lets you see that log, which will simply say the date and time and portions of your scheduled events with the word success if all went as planned. While reading text-based logs is super good fun for everyone, I mean, who doesn't love that? You might also enjoy watching your pets eat. In the Pet Libro app, you can manually turn on the camera and watch what's going on in your house at ankle level, which would also include watching the cats up super close as they chow down. If you want to watch stored videos, you can either subscribe to their cloud service or pop a micro SD card into the teeny weeny slot inside the battery compartment on the bottom. Now, I didn't buy a new micro SD card for it until after I'd filled the chamber, so it was a bit of a challenge for Steve to hold it up while I was underneath trying to find that tiny slot and, of course, putting it in backward the first 3 times. Now, the instructions say the card has to be less than 256 gigabytes, but I'm betting they meant 256 gigabytes or less. Just in case, I went for the 128 gigabytes, just in case it wasn't a typo. When you put the memory card in, after flipping it 3 times as always required, you'll be shown the option to format the card from within the app. I tried repeatedly to format the app. Okay, how many times are you going to stumble on that? I tried repeatedly. I tried repeatedly to format the card via the app interface, and it never worked. I finally ended up reformatting it with my Mac, and it worked just fine after that. While it's fun to just spy on your kitchen floor at random times of the day, it might be a little more fun to look at the camera when the cats are actually there. The Pet Libro allows you to turn on notifications when it detects movements, so while we were off in Mammoth for a week, we'd get notified and we'd be able to watch them. Do you know how many times in a day one or the other of our cats went to the cat feeder? I'd estimate it was around 126 times apiece. We got notifications every single time, and even sometimes when the leaves on the trees caused shadows to move in the line of vision of the Pet Libro's camera. We have the sensitivity set to low, but I think they might need an extra low option. Now, they do have a sound detection notification, and I think that might work better because I thought it would only trigger... No, read what it says. Don't ad-lib. Now, they do... No, they do. They have a sound detection notification too, and I thought that might work better since I thought it would only trigger when they're eating or the food is falling. What I didn't take into account was that when we're home, we make a lot of noise in the kitchen. So maybe I'll leave alerts off altogether while I'm away from home, until I'm away from home again. I'll probably use the sound trigger though in the future. I should mention that the alerts are on a schedule too, so you can turn them off when you're sleeping. While we were away, I watched a lot of the stored videos just to see if Grace was able to get any food at all. I'll admit that it was Ada chowing down more often than Grace, but at least she was in some of the videos. The video quality is very good. It's 1080p with a 145-degree viewing angle. As you scroll through the recorded videos with the timeline, you can even download the videos from the memory card to your local gallery within the app. I have to give big credit to the Pet Libro people for how fast the app is in a lot of ways, including how easy it is to scroll in the timeline and do a video. So many apps, Ring, Tesla, YouTube TV, I'm looking at you here, they're so bad at letting you get right to the recorded bit. You got a big timeline, and it's really hard to get it right where the actual recording is. With Pet Libro, as soon as you get anywhere near to a recording, the timeline snaps right to the closest video. Now, every time I play with the Pet Libro app, I find something new it can do. I've said the app is intuitive, but I found one really funny thing buried in a very obscure location in the app. Remember I told you can turn on logging of events by tapping on the icon with a phone/tablet in the upper right? In that same menu, again, I don't know why it looks like that, you'll see recording length. Well, what is recording length? Recording of what? If you tap on it, it gives you the funniest thing. You can record your own voice with a feeding time message. Okay, but here's what makes it so funny. You use the app to initiate the recording of your voice, but it's the feeder's microphone that actually records your voice. So here I am, down on my hands and knees, yelling out my best hog call, going, "Sweet, pig, 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 pig," into the microphone on this feeder. Now, every single time the feeder starts spitting out food, I have the joy of watching Ada come to a hog call. Pet Libro has a section on scenes and automations, but it appears to only be possible to do any of these if you own other products by the same manufacturer. I went looking for them, the different devices they have, and I don't really understand how this is ever going to work because the menus imply you can do things like turn on lights when you feed the cats, and they didn't have any lights to sell that go with it, so I really wasn't able to experiment with that part at all. Now, while I'm very bummed that the Pet Libro PLAF 203 dual cat feeder is inaccessible, for those of us with sight, it's a really cool device. I should probably weigh Ada and Grace right now and see whether it has any effect on how much Ada will eat or if Grace will just get thinner. Check out the Pet Libro cat feeder and their other products at petlibro.com. Did I grow up in the Midwest? Why, yes, I did. But I was never around hogs, if that's what you're wondering.
I wish I would have seen that you recording that phrase. By
the way, I did a new recording and I did it a lot louder. It wasn't loud enough for Steve's taste.
Oh, let me bring the book over to you.
Oh, are we going to do intermission or should I do my second recording?
Okay, we'll stretch it out a little bit.
It's up to you.
No, I think we should
make the call.
Yeah.
I know that was a long time in a cat feeder, but it's so cool. Does anybody in the audience have cats that they want to test this with? Or they want to get one? Copy link. Oh, we're on another subject. All right, I'm going to talk about something that'll actually be fun for you. I did a chapter mark. Who's yelling at me to do chapter marks?
I'm watching you.
Without Kevin.
I see a chapter mark there. Can't quite read whether, but I'm sure it looks like a link on
Can I get one that'll feed cats to my dogs? Hey, thanks, Jill. Hey, do chapter marks. John? Sandy, isn't that 3? You can feed little dogs with it too. It's at least 3.
I assume they have one for big dogs, larger
No.
animals.
No, they're all
all small.
little animal feeders.
Interesting. You think it wouldn't be that tough to expand their market just a bit, or double it with a slight product modification?
Yeah, I don't know. Bigger dogs would probably knock the whole thing over, don't you think?
Plus, would they come to a hog call?
Dog might be insulted being fed by a cat feeder. Yeah. I mean, little dogs might be okay. Filtered water. Oh, so John, they do make a filtered watering system from Pet Libro. All right. I think I'm going to do the second one here. Here we go. Back in 2009, Steve and I hosted a party for the Nosilla castaways during Macworld in a local bar. It was a great success and everyone had a great time. The following year, we did it again, but something awful happened. Someone who publishes a list of parties during Macworld included our party, and we had tons of party crashers show up, people that didn't even know us. Steve and I had funded this party with our own pocketbooks, so this was a real bummer. In 2011, we wanted to do it again, but actually, you know what? I'm going to redo this, and I'm going to do something Rose is going to like. Back in 2009, Steve and I hosted a party for the Nosilla castaways during Macworld at a local bar. In fact, it's at that actual event that Rose coined the term Nosilla castaways. Anyway, it was a great success, and everyone had a great time. The following year, we did it again, but something awful happened. Someone who publishes a list of open parties during Macworld included our party, and we had tons of party crashers show up. Steve and I funded this party with our own pocketbook, so this was a real bummer. In 2011, we wanted to do it again, but we needed a way to control who showed up. We deployed one human tactic and one tech tool to make the party a success. Barry Falk, well known to everybody as the host of the Midwest Mac Barbecue, Paul Shadwell and Julie Keel volunteered to be bouncers for the event. It was awesome. Barry wore a tuxedo, Paul wore an all-black suit, and he's really bad looking, and Julie dressed up in her Harley biker gear, complete with a leather jacket and a bandana. The tech angle was Connor Jackson's idea. He suggested I use a Google form so people could register to attend. That would give the bouncers a checklist to ensure no miscreants showed up to spoil the party. I'd never heard of Google Forms before, but it turned out to be the perfect solution. Well, it's been 12 years since I first discovered Google Forms. I just realized I've never talked about it on the show beyond a passing mention. I'd like to rectify that and teach you what Google Forms can do and how to make them yourself. They're really nifty, they're really easy, and they're free. The basic idea of Google Forms is that you create a series of questions and decide how you want them answered. And then you send out the form and it automatically collects the data for you. Well, that sounds really dry and boring, doesn't it? How about a couple of examples to kind of tickle your interest instead? Let's say you're planning a big family reunion. You want to accommodate as many of the family members as possible, so you might want to create a form that asks for people to vote on which dates would be best for them. You might want to include where the event should occur, narrowing down the available options by a vote. Maybe once you find a date and location, you'd want to create another Google form to get people to sign up to bring potato salad, beer, or cake. Perhaps you'd include a section on when people will be flying in and out so you'd know when to expect them. Maybe you've got an event that's a lot simpler, like a birthday party, and you just want RSVPs. A quick Google form is all you need. If you teach a course or make a presentation, perhaps you'd want to use a Google form as a method to get feedback on how the audience perceived the information you delivered. Maybe you're working on a project and you'd like to get feedback. I used a Google form to ask people what they liked best about the design of podfeed.com and what they wished was different about the site. I used some of that feedback to figure out how to redesign it into what you now see as its current form. During COVID, Steve cooked his usual giant Thanksgiving dinner, even though we couldn't have our normal large family gathering. We decided to drive care packages to each of our friends on Thanksgiving Day. Now, I didn't want to bring sweet potatoes to someone if they hated them, or dark meat when they preferred light meat, so I created a Google form with all of the options listed and let them decide what they wanted delivered. Our friends found it a delightful bit of entertainment to fill out and have goodies delivered to their doors. Google Forms provides a great deal of flexibility in what kind of information you can collect, and even has ways to protect the privacy of the participants so you don't gather more information than you need. So now let's talk about the settings for forms. Google Forms are available from drive.google.com under the New button, which will open a new blank form. Or better yet, start at docs.google.com/forms, which will show you a lot more options. Across the top, you'll see the template gallery. This is a great place to peruse to create different types of forms and see what can be created. You can study a job application, an assessment, an event registration, and a form to find a time for a group to do something together. But let's start with a blank form and learn how to use Google Forms. As soon as you start a new form, you'll see 3 tabs at the top: Questions, Responses, and Settings. I'm going to start kind of backwards by walking you through the settings first because they'll change what options are available to you when you start creating your questions. Within settings, you can make the form a quiz, which allows you to assign point values, set answers, and provide feedback. If you don't want to do a quiz, do not toggle this setting on. Next, you have a lot of control over how you deal with responses. By default, Google Forms do not collect email addresses. I applaud Google for making this default because collecting people's email addresses means you're responsible for protecting those addresses. In the case of the NosillaCast party way back when, I did collect addresses because I needed to be able to notify the attendees if something went awry with the party, such as a venue change. You can toggle on the ability to collect email addresses in settings, or you can do it later in the creation of your forms. In Google Forms settings, you can automatically send participants a copy of their completed form. So if Cousin Billy is committed to making that potato salad for the family reunion, you sure want him to have a copy of that commitment, right? Now, let's say Cousin Billy remembers he doesn't actually know how to make potato salad, but he'd like to make his world-famous quiche. In settings for Google Forms, you can allow participants to go back and edit their responses. If you'd like to limit users to one response, there's a toggle for that in settings, but it warns you that this will require the participants to sign into Google so their participation can be tracked. Again, I think it's quite polite of Google to have that turned off by default and let you know the repercussions of turning it on. The next section of settings allows you to control how the form and responses are presented to your participants. I really appreciate it when I start a survey if they show me a progress bar. Sure, I'll bail early if I realize after 5 minutes that I'm only 10% through, but that should be my choice, I think. Google Forms lets you show a progress bar to be courteous to your participants. If your form is a quiz, you might want to shuffle the order of the questions, and you can choose whether to show the respondents the results from other respondents. That's another thing I really like in a survey. I need to know how much people agree with me. Finally, you can change whether by default questions are required to be answered. This is a default, as I said, so you could always toggle required on and off question by question. On and off question by question. This is a default, as I said, so you can always toggle required on and off question by question. I want a break. You just want to make sure you submitted my question. Oh, you guys should take the survey. Steve, give them the link at the bottom of it so we can get results in there and see what people say.
All right.
Because I'm going to build one up, but you guys can look at it at the end. Oh, the hooligans. Oh, I wish I'd known that. I would have used it in the review.
There's the link, everyone. If you haven't filled it out, go and give it a whirl.
All right. I think I'll keep going unless I miss. Oh, 104 new messages. Looks like it's mostly cats. All right. Now that we have our settings just the way we want them, let's make a form already. We'll start with an example. Let's say we want to take a survey of the NosillaCastaways to find out how well they like the show. We'll start by adding a title, and we can also write a little form description. Under the form description, you'll see a set of formatting options you can use within the description, including typical, bold, italics, underline, but you can have numbered and bulleted lists along with the option to create links. And finally, you can remove all formatting. A new Google form will insert a new untitled question. To the right, you'll see it's defaulted to multiple choice and a radio button that says option 1 has been auto-created. Before we write our first question, let's explore the options for the answers. We can allow 2 different free-form text fields, short answer or paragraph. In addition to multiple choice radio button, the option that was the default for our new form, you can also choose checkboxes or a dropdown. Now, multiple choice radio buttons and dropdowns only allow one answer, while checkboxes allow more than one answer to a question. Let's say your form is for collecting bug reports. People might need to upload screenshots of a problematic area in your app. Google Forms allows file uploads for this purpose as the answer to the question. Now, they warn you that respondents will be required to sign into Google if file upload questions are added to a form because their files will be uploaded to each person's own Google Drive folders. Again, they're being very courteous to you, telling you that's going to happen. Now, the next three ways to present possible options for answers are linear scale, multiple choice grid, and checkbox grid. This took me a little while to figure these out, but linear grid was pretty self-explanatory. Respondents get a little slider where they can drag along a scale. You can set the minimum to 0 or 1 and up to a maximum of 10. Now, I didn't really understand the checkbox grid, like I said, until I looked at the template to find a time. That was the one where trying to find a time to meet. Their find a time template shows Monday through Friday down the left column, and then 4 columns across the top for morning, midday, afternoon, and evening, and then little checkboxes for the intersections of those rows and columns. So I mean by that, you can check a box for, say, Tuesday in the morning, any time of the day on Wednesday, and the evening on Friday. So just like how the drop-downs work, if you change that same find a time template to be a multiple choice grid, the respondents would only be able to choose one time to meet up instead of all of the times they'd be available. Now, there's certainly a use for the different types of options, so it's good to understand which ones allow which kinds of responses. The last two types of responses are date and time. I assume these options would be useful for choosing a time to meet up like the previous example, but that's not what they're for. It's to define a specific date or time. You could use this, say, to ask someone for their birthday or the date they're submitting a form. I thought it might be useful for quizzes like, when did Columbus land at Plymouth Rock? But you can't just answer 1492, you have to give the month and day too. By the way, when I was a very young child, I got that question on a quiz. I want to say it was second grade, and I didn't know the answer. I looked at my neighbor's paper, and I wrote down the answer. Before I turned it in, though, I erased it because I knew it was wrong to cheat like that. I'm no saint, but my parents raised me not to cheat. Okay, now that we understand all of the ways we can have questions answered, can we finally start writing our NosillaCast survey? Let's make the first question, how did you find the Podfeet podcast? The obvious type of response should probably be a paragraph so people could explain in detail how they found the shows. At the bottom right, I can set the toggle on whether to make this question required like we talked about in the defaults. Some people might not remember how they found the show, so I'll make that one optional. To the right of the question field, there's an image icon. For reasons I can't explain, they've made it so you can embed an image into any question, either by uploading, linking to an online image, or even using your webcam. Once it's inserted into the question, you can change the alignment, change out the image, remove it, or add a caption. Still don't know what it's for, though. At this point, we probably want to see how this will look to the respondents to our survey. Google Forms changes the location and even the names of some of the icons depending on how wide your window is in the browser. On a narrow window, you'll see a 3-dot icon in the upper right with a lot of options, one of which is Preview. That's what we're looking for. But if you have your window wide enough, you'll see an eyeball icon that allows you to preview your form. So again, your window width is going to change where you find things. Plymouth Rock? What did I say?
You did say Plymouth Rock, but you said Columbus, and it was the Pilgrims. Thank you, Sandy.
Oh, I might just leave it.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah, Sandy's a proofreader. It's too late now.
I'll be curious how many people note that.
Yeah, let's leave it just for fun.
Yeah, a little Easter egg.
Easter egg. That's awesome. There's a really wonderful woman I follow on TikTok, and she did this big apology video because she referred to self-rising sugar. And she got so many people saying, I went to the store and I couldn't find self-rising sugar. The width is going to change where you find things. All right. Okay. Here we go. To add additional questions to your form, look around for a plus icon. Again, if your window is narrow, it will be in a group of icons across the bottom. But if you've got a wider window, they're going to be in a column on the right. For my next question on making... Okay, I waited too long because I had to scroll a lot. For my next question on my amazing survey, I'll ask them what kind of devices they use. This question would be ideal for checkboxes so they could check all that apply. As soon as you choose checkboxes, you'll see option 1 next to a checkbox. You can enter the first response option and then manually click to add another option, or if you just hit the enter key, it'll add options as you type, so it's very efficient. They also allow you to add an option called Other, where people can enter a free-form answer. I chose to let them choose between blah, 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 blah. That's not interesting. I made checkboxes for PC, Mac, Linux, iPhone, Android, Raspberry Pi, Synology, iPad, Apple Watch, and other. Let's get to the meat of the survey and ask them to tell us how well do they like the NosillaCast. How about a linear scale response to that question? In addition to defining the numerical scale, the numbers, we can also assign values to the two endpoints. It's important for people to know whether 1 is best or 10. I think we'll label the value next to 1 to mean they truly love it, and 5 will say it's the best show ever. That way we'll get fully good answers. At any time while creating your questionnaire, survey, quiz, or party invitation, if you hover over a question, you'll see a light gray icon with a grid of 3x2 dots. This is a handle, and it allows you to drag the questions up and down to rearrange them. Like I said, this is a really easy to use tool, and it's got lots of flexibility. All right, let's ask them how often they listen to the different shows. I'll use a checkbox grid for this one. For the rows, I'll put in the NosillaCast, Chit Chat Across the Pond Light, and Programming by Stealth. And for the columns, I'll put Never Miss an Episode, Most of the Time, Dip In and Out, and Not My Cup of Tea. And for snarky people like NASA Nut, we'll make the last option, Never Heard of It. While I was writing up these options, I realized I needed them in a different order. Just like the questions, the response options within a question can be rearranged using the same kind of grab handles with 6 dots. After all this work, I think our respondents deserve a reward. Back on that elusive menu of icons where we found the plus button, there's an option to simply embed a video from YouTube. I thought it might be nice if those participating in my little survey got to watch a beautiful short video Steve created a few years ago. It's a compilation of the total eclipse we saw in Chile. It's very moving and well done. After giving the YouTube URL, the embedded video will have a 3-dot bubble on it. That allows you to left, center, or right align the content, change the video to a different one, or remove the video altogether. In case you're wondering, you can't embed any other video formats. I tried Vimeo and a video I put on my own website of my cat responding to the dropping of the food by that new automated cat feeder, and Google Forms did not accept either one. This video is really a separate part of the form, so let's use that elusive menu again that moves between the right side and the bottom of the view and choose the last icon. It looks like 2 tiny rectangles. That lets us add a section to our form to separate the 2 distinct pieces. If you've got a long form, separating them into sections has a bonus feature for you. It allows you to collapse those sections so it's easier for you to work on your form. Now, if you're happy with the form okay, boy, am I fumbling a lot. I'm going to redo that. That lets us add a... Miss anything? That lets us add... That lets us add a section to our form to separate the 2 distinct pieces of it. If you've got a long form, separating them into sections has a bonus feature for you because it allows you to collapse sections while you're working, and it's easier to work on your form that way. Now, if you're happy with the default color scheme Google gave you, you're pretty close to done. But if you'd like to customize the look a bit more, take a look at the Painter's Palette icon at the top menu bar. Not only can you change the text styles for the header, questions, and text, but you can also choose the overall color and add a header image. If you select add a header, blah, 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 blah. If you select to add a header image, you get a plethora of very cool looking banner images under the theme sections with topic areas like work and school, illustrations, birthdays, weddings, travel, and more. You can also upload your own banner image or choose from your already uploaded Google Photos. I uploaded a banner image I have of the 4 Podfeed podcast logos. When the logo came up, Google Forms automatically changed the theme colors to complement those images. I thought that was pretty cool. Before the banner image, the form was lavender, but I think it picked up on the gray from the Taming the Terminal logo because the form changed to a more professional dark gray border and light gray background. Interestingly, it also gave me a color palette that complemented the 4 logos, so I was able to choose a nice blue instead of the boring gray. Now let's say we're done with the survey for now and we want to test it out. We don't want to send out the raw URL to where we created the form. That doesn't make any sense. We want to send out the form in a way that people can actually fill it out and submit. If your window is narrow, you'll see a paper airplane icon that lets you send out your form. If you embiggen the window, there's a big purple send button that does the same thing. I do not know why they keep changing the views and the names. It doesn't make any sense to me. Anyway, you get 3 different ways to send the form to your intended respondents. The first option is to send via email. If you're sending out birthday party invitations or asking your relatives to help you pick a date for a family reunion, this might be a practical method since you'll have a specific set of recipients. You'll still see that collect email addresses is set to do not collect, but I think that just means that you won't collect the email addresses. It was not clear to me whether Google might collect the addresses if you did it that way. The second method is to send the form is to use a link. You can simply copy the giant long docs.google.com/forms URL with a lot of glop after that, or they offer to give you a shortened URL. It's still a bit gloppy, but this time it's to forms.gle, and it's a bit less glop. Finally, if you manage your own website, you can get an embed code ready to plop into a web page as an iframe. That's how I did the NosillaCastaways party invite all those years ago with a double secret private URL that only listeners of the show would know. Now, after you send out your Google form, you'll actually be able to see the responses roll in. Remember when we started on this journey about 3.5 hours ago, I said at the top of the form, you'll see questions, responses, and settings. Even without selecting the responses tab, it will have a number next to it showing you how many people have responded to your survey. When you open the responses tab, you'll see 3 additional tabs: summary, question, and individual. On the summary tab, you'll see the data presented differently depending on how you allowed the participants to respond. For example, if you gave them a free-form text field, you'll just see the text-based responses. But if you gave them a multiple choice/checkbox option, then the responses will show a horizontal bar graph for each answer and what percentage of the participants selected each of those options. Likewise, you'll see a vertical bar graph if you gave them a linear scale like 1 to 5. Now here's something really fun. Next to the non-text-based response sections, like the bar graphs, you'll see a copy button that lets you copy the graphic itself. This can be a great way to embed the results into a final report. It's kind of an odd copy, though. It doesn't really show in the clipboard or even in my clipboard manager, so it's a little hard to extract, unfortunately. I'm not sure how or why they made it so hard to use. After the summary tab, we can look at the questions tab, which focuses on each question one at a time. Text-based responses will be all listed and it'll tell you how many people wrote the same thing. Probably not too valuable with an open text-based response question, but a multiple choice checkbox question will show you all the different sets of options people chose, and if you have a large enough sample size, that could end up repeating, so you might see more than one response to a specific combination of answers. Likewise, linear scale responses could be very valuable to show you the frequency of each response. The final tab under responses is individual, and that lets you see how each respondent answered each of the questions. I could see this view being very helpful if you're giving out a quiz. Now, these 3 ways of viewing the data you received may meet your needs, but if you've got a giant survey you're doing and you want to do a lot more analysis, there's also a link at the top to create a Google Sheet for the responses. Once the sheet is created, the button will change to View, and as more responses come in, they automatically populate the sheet. Now, I want to make one last comment, and it's about quizzes. I didn't quite understand how to make a quiz, so I experimented using the quiz template they provide. Even after starting with a template, I had a lot of trouble figuring out how to get it to do things. It seemed like it was kind of a bit buggy. It was getting stuck from time to time where I'd have to refresh the whole page to work with it. Sometimes the quiz would open with an answer I'd already chosen, even though it shouldn't be answered in the quiz as I'm creating it. I couldn't figure out how to consistently give the quiz taker feedback either. Maybe I was just doing something wrong, but none of the other templates or form options gave me a lick of trouble. I'd be curious whether any of you could get the quizzes to work consistently. The bottom line is that Google Forms is a highly flexible tool to collect data, whether it be from a vast audience survey or to create a quiz for a class or to organize an event and get participant information. And it's free. If you'd like to take my little survey and watch Steve's Eclipse video as a reward, there's a link in the show notes to the NosillaCast show. Can't get one word out. If you'd like to take my little survey and watch Steve's Eclipse video as a reward, there's a link in the show notes to the NosillaCast survey.
Whew.
Okay.
How many words was that one? 3,000, I'm guessing.
It was 84 paragraphs. I know that.
All right.
Oh. Now can we
Yes.
do the dramatic reading?
I'll be over.
Okay, where is our security bits thing? And I should probably do a... Has anybody else worked with... have you guys been taking the survey? Oh, you found it?
Notice it is volume 2, part 2.
But I don't think we had volume 1.
Yeah, I think we did.
No, we didn't. I would have saved it. All right. Here we are. Let's see. Here we go. All right. So Maxwell's equations are the equations that govern electromagnetism. And it says in here, as for Maxwell's equations, the German physicist Ludwig Boltzmann, quoting a line from Goethe, wrote, quote, was it a God who wrote these lines?
Wow.
And then it says, in more recent times, J.R. Pierce, in a book chapter entitled Maxwell's Wonderful Equations, says, quote, to anyone who is motivated by anything beyond the most narrowly practical, it is worthwhile to study Maxwell's equations simply for the good of his soul.
I thought there was another line.
Ed. Ed wrote, Boltzmann was very constant.
Yes. I thought there was another line that got into some concept that was a little too deep for this class, and it said, but we'll leave that for reading on a casual Sunday afternoon or something to that effect.
Let's see. All equations of physics that serve, as these do, to correlate experiments in a vast area and to predict new results have a certain beauty about them and can be appreciated by those who understand them on an aesthetic level. This is true for Newton's laws of motion, for the laws of thermodynamics, for the theory of relativity, and for the theories of quantum physics. That preceded what I wrote, and then the end of it was, the scope of these equations is remarkable, including as it does the fundamental operating principles of all large-scale electromagnetic devices as motors, cyclotrons, electronic computers, television, and microwave radar.
Yeah, I think it was in a different part of the book.
Maybe it was in volume 1.
Yeah, there you go. Did you show him the cover? Because it looks quite different than the one that's... It's very bland.
What's from...
This is like from 76?
76?
77?
Well, 76 is when we took it. Let's see. This is...
That's 1976 for
1966 was this printing.
Yeah, we had an old one.
I didn't keep many books, but that was one of them. And Tesla regenerative braking, yes. I decided what I'm going to do. I'm going to put an Easter egg after I do the closing of the show. That's the Columbus didn't...
Oh, okay.
Or what did I say?
You said Columbus landed at Plymouth Rock, and it was the Pilgrims.
Okay. Where did he land?
I think down much farther south, I think in the Caribbean, or not even on U.S. soil. I don't know the exact location. It was in the Caribbean? Yeah.
Oh, I
don't know.
change
Oh,
this.
Bahamas, was it, Kurt?
The Bahamas, huh? Who knew? You did. Where's support the show? I want to do a different link. Let's see. Podbeat. Support the show. And I'm going to do it here. I decided to plug with the affiliate links. All right. So now... And as we support the show. There we go.
Looks like you have a snippet for that.
A snippet?
Support the show?
You mean some words to say?
No, you just typed in a couple characters and it appeared.
Oh, I copied and pasted it.
Ah.
That's what I always do with those. All right, here we go. One of the ways you can support the shows we do here at the Podfeed Podcast Empire is to use my affiliate links. One of my must-have apps is Parallels Toolbox. I've written scads of articles about all the things it can do, including the most recent Parallels Toolbox, the gift that keeps on giving, but the folks at Parallels license the toolbox on a per-machine basis. I need to mute this because I'm going to run into myself. For one Mac at $25 per year, I find it a great value. But now that I'm living the 2-laptop lifestyle, paying an extra $25 per year, it seems a bit steep. However, some grand NosillaCastaway recently used my affiliate link for Parallels Toolbox, and I got a license for 3 months free, and they got 3 months added onto their subscription. So if 4 times a year, one of you would buy an annual license of Parallels Toolbox, I wouldn't have to pay twice. Check out the links in the show notes. Not links. Oh, actually it is. Check out the link in the show notes to my affiliate link page to Parallels Toolbox to help out both you and me, or look for other applications and things and services you might want in the affiliate links there. That didn't make any sense, but I'm not going to fix it.
All right. One more to go.
Just security bits.
Yep.
So we're almost done recording. Ooh, I've only got 4 minutes. 4 minutes, kids. Is she going to make it?
You got to get moving here.
I do. Get on it. Well, I had to stop and do a dramatic reading, right? Security bits. Okay, let's see. Both edited. I think this comes up here. I don't often edit security bits, but Bart and I sprung something on Bart, and oh, I guess that one's ready just like it is. It's not going to be stereo, huh? So I had to edit it. Aruba on in the affiliate link with Bart Bouchot.
Wait a minute.
In the affiliate links there.
Hold on. What happened to the whole splitting and gathering the two tracks?
So I explained half of it just now, but didn't explain why you care. I had the 2 stereo recordings, but I needed to edit something out of both of us. So I already did the splitting and combining, and then edited, and then made it one stereo or one file.
Hopefully saved a lot of time there for us.
Yeah, for you. In the affiliate links there. Well, it's that time of the week again. It's time for Security Bits with Bart Bouchot. How are you today, Bart?
Now that I'm dry again, I'm good.
All right, that's all you get.
Except
hour and 23-minute show. Jeez.
Except you cut our plink.
Oh, yeah, no, you don't get the plink. Sorry.
Well, maybe we'll get a double plink next week.
There you go. We'll see. Well, that is going to wind us up for this week. Did you know you can email me at allison@podfeed.com anytime you like? If you have a question or a suggestion, just send it on over. You can follow me on Mastodon at podfeed@chaos.social. I'm very active over there, and it's really fun. You should come join me. Remember, everything good starts with podfeed.com. If you want to join in the fun of the conversation, you can join our Slack community at podfeed.com/Slack, where you can talk to me and all of the other lovely NosillaCastaways, and you would be notified there if I did have a live show when I said there wasn't going to be one. You can support the show at podfeed.com/Patreon, where you also would have been notified that we had a live show, or with a one-time donation at podfeed.com/PayPal. And if you want to join in the fun of the live show, head on over to podfeed.com/live on Sunday nights at 5 p.m. Pacific time and join the friendly and enthusiastic NosillaCastaways. Thanks for listening, and stay subscribed. During the show, alert listener, shoot, I started to give Jill credit. Brain fart. By the way, during the live show, alert listener Sandy pointed out to me that Columbus did not land at Plymouth Rock. There you go. All right.
We'll see how many people notice that.
Now, where do I... Actually, should I play it? I think I'll do it after the music.
Yeah, very end.
Right. Maybe like that. Let's listen to this. And stay subscribed. Should I do it after the full music or maybe bring it like right in here?
Let the music fade a little.
Yeah, it's going to fade a little bit. During the live show, alert listener Sandy pointed out to me that Columbus did not land at Plymouth Rock.
All right, that's good.
All right. I have 4 links.
4, boy, that's a light one. I
right?
see 1, 2, 3, 4.
It's a miracle. All right. There are 5 links. I like it.
5?
No, he's just...
Don't scare me.
There could be 5, but I have 4. I think he's just being silly. All right, 6 o'clock. I'm exporting the file. Boom! I made it.
Well done. Well, you exported the file. Oh, exported.
I'm exporting
not,
it right now.
Not upload. Okay.
No, but it's 6 o'clock.
Yep. I think
So wish us luck. Day after tomorrow, Sienna's getting cochlear implant, a cochlear implant. And we're very
Yes.
nervous and scared about the surgery. And we're going to go down there and hold her little hand. And she's going to be all sad and sore. And she won't know why. And I'm worried about her.
but very
Lindsay's there.
Very
It's
hopeful.
going to be great.
And very hopeful with what the results will be.
Oh, the results are going to be amazing. It's going to be fantastic. It's going to be very good. But I need to go down and cuddle the little cornball. Thanks, Ed. I didn't see Lindsay sneak in. Hi, Lindsay.
Yeah, she came in just shortly after we started. She did buy the drink, so at least
Oh, she
virtually.
did?
She said she
right.
did. I haven't seen mine, but
It's going to be amazing when she can hear. That's going to be so cool. It's just, we're super excited. Just got to get over this little hump. That's all. All righty, everybody. Well, I think that's it.
I think so.
All righty. Bye. Bye, Rose.